Thank you, and welcome to the Veterans in Politics Candidate Endorsement Interviews. I am Mack Miller, the moderator for today's event. I'm a candidate for Assembly District 5, and I do not have any vote with the Veterans in Politics and no bearing on the endorsement that they provide for the candidates. We'd like to thank you for being here. Kathleen Lauckner, a candidate for State Assembly District 42. We'd also like to thank our panel members for being here as well. And most importantly, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Ron Q for Clark County Treasurer, Michael Broadway Real Estate, Real Water, and Lakeside Business Suites. With that, we'd like to open by allowing you 2 minutes to tell the panel why they should endorse you for your candidacy.
All right. So, good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Lauckner, as we said, running for Assembly 42. And the reason I'm here today is to listen and to tell you what I am all about. And so it's your choice to endorse me, and hopefully you will. So my issues, I've lived in my neighborhood for 35 years, the same house. I've been at UNLV for 33 years as a professor and scientific researcher. So the things that I deal with the most are families and children of lead-poisoned situations, either in housing or, let's say, a mom or dad bringing it home from work. That's been my area of research for a long time. So I tell people running for the Assembly, and the reason I am is because Irene Bustamante Adams is not. She's just chosen not to run this time, so I promised Irene that I would when she didn't. So I've been working for the Democratic Party since 2008, knocking doors, making phone calls. You want me to talk on this? Dealing with party issues as far as being a member of the Central Committee and as far as the State Committee. I was elected to the Audit Committee for the last Democratic Party cycle. So I'm ready to run because my issues are, of course, education, the environment, elderly care as far as veterans go, because my father was one and I had a lot of issues with that, and also economic diversity and energy opportunity. So I'm here to speak with you today and answer all of your questions.
Robert Foust, U.S. Army VIPI member. Where do you stand on the voters' rights for ex-convicts?
Voters' rights for ex-convicts, they should be given the right to vote as soon as the law says that they are able to. So I have, as soon as the law says they are able to, that's, yes. So I'm all for passing a law that says they are able to. And so I actually have several ex-convicts living in my district and talked with them the last legislative cycle, and they were not aware of the fact that they could fight for that right and hopefully get a petition to be good voters again.
Lena, Ocasio, Air Force veteran and real estate broker here in town. We have a big problem with our education system here in Nevada, particularly in Clark County. My question is, do you support school choice and the educational savings accounts, and why or why not?
I don't support government money being used for private schools. My children went to private school, I went to private school, I paid for private school. I do want diversity in our schools, I do want science to be taught in our schools. I know there's an issue, we don't pay our teachers enough, and you know that Nevada is always ranked lowest in the states. So originally, 35 some years ago, I moved here from the East Coast where nobody talked about how bad schools were. So I often say I've had teachers in my classes teaching at the university, and a teacher said to me once, as long as I teach my children to count to 21, my job is done. And so that is the truth, verbatim statement. So I've always felt that this town has a problem with the culture in education. They do not put enough respect on the issue of education, but I think private schools should be kept private.
Thank you. Leo Bletnitsky, former U.S. Coast Guard, current technology consultant. So just to clarify, you're for people that have money to be able to put their kids in private school, but the rest of the people just need to suffer?
No, that is not what I said at all. What I said is that our schools should be given the respect that every school is as good as any private school in this valley. So no matter how much money you throw at a private school, the same education level should be given in our public schools. So we as taxpayers should have the respect for our schools, make them as good as any other private school could be. They have to be equal.
Okay. So my actual question is, because the school district is so low in the rankings, and administrators get paid so much. I mean, the principal of my kid's school makes $187,000, which is pretty significant.
Wish we all did that.
What is your suggestions for making the school district better? And two, would you support having a citizens review board to oversee the school district's disciplinary issues? Because Clark County School District has the highest expulsion rate and suspension rate in the country, and administrators get to use arbitrary measures, and there is no appeal process beyond the school principal.
Right. So there's a lot wrapped up in that question. And so as far as disciplinary problems, people will say, does it start at the home? Do you have to discipline the kids once you get to school? I am one of those people, a citizen who goes into our schools and gives talks to kids about careers in STEM, all the way from pre-K all the way through higher education. I've been to the schools that we would declare in trouble, let's say, right? And so when you have a student who could stand up in the back of the room and say, hey, you, F you, I don't want to talk to you for the whole rest of the day. During class time, the teacher stands there and goes, what am I supposed to do about this? So I personally have never had to deal with that in a classroom because I had nuns, right? Who's going to put up with that? But I understand what the teachers have to put up with. Does the disciplinary action start at home? Do you need citizens to have more talks? Are parents working 2 and 3 jobs and can't pay attention to what their kids are doing in school? There are all sorts of issues when you ask the question that you asked about why we have a discipline problem in school. Too many kids in the classroom. I had 70 kids in my classroom. We had no disciplinary, problems. So I think it, again, turns over to culture and making students understand that they're important and do the best we can to educate them and discipline them so they can graduate.
Steve Sanson Jr., U.S. Army. Thank you for being here. Carry on what he was saying, or what he asked. What steps would you take in order to ensure that that did happen? How would you assist, or how do you feel it should be done to make the disciplinary in schools easier? Basically, what would you do to alleviate some of the strain on the teachers?
Mm-hmm. So again, I will say that how you reduce the strain is to have more teachers, and so in order to get more teachers in our valley, you need to pay them better. So as an assembly person, it is our job to establish that budget, support the schools. But as far as culture in the classroom, that is not the assembly's job. We can give resources. We can have counselors. We can have disciplinarians. We have disciplinarians in my school. So we can have more activity, learning, so the kids aren't bored just listening to somebody yap at them in the front of the classroom, right? The kids have to be more engaged. I find that the students do not have enough to do. And so as such, you get them more engaged, you get them interested in what you're teaching them, and then some of those disciplinary problems go away.
Troy Warren, VIP member. Correct me if I'm wrong, you said you wanted economic diversity as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when it comes to rules, regulations, fees, different things for businesses, I'm kind of want to know your position on some of these. For example, I've been a mechanic for 35 years. I have been a business owner for 10. Currently work for the company that I started as a key service employee by choice. However, last 2 years, all of a sudden the health department's coming in, charging us $253.67 each time they come in. They do this once a year, to spend 5 minutes to make sure that we have a waste oil tank. Mm-hmm. Now, the county takes care of that, the fire department takes care of that, and the EPA takes care of that. But now we have to cough up another. What's your plan for economic diversity and how to help small businesses overcome this kind of burdensome, just arbitrary, talk about capricious. Mm-hmm. How would you handle that?
Okay. So I have a lot of experience in that area because for 25 years I've trained contractors to take lead and asbestos and mold and other hazardous materials out of buildings, right? So my small contractors who are trying to get these housing jobs are way overfeed for one, training, thousands of dollars, right? Thousands of dollars in training, hundreds of dollars in certification, and the stupid asbestos certification that has to be done every year. Nothing has changed since 1981.
Correct.
So why do you have to go to training and get fees? So I feel you in your question, okay? So what I tell my guys too is that how strong are you as mechanic businesses in town? How strong are you as small contractors in town? You need to speak up for yourselves, right? And say to the assembly people or to the health department, you know what, this is unfair, but I never see you come forward. Now this is just me personally, same with my contractors. They come and complain to me because I was considered EPA, right? But even though I'm just the university, but I had a contract to train for them. So I said, I am speaking in every opportunity, every conference I went to, I complained about the fees and how people are not following the rules because they can't afford the license, right? So I absolutely hear what you're saying. The health department, again, one of those woefully underfunded agencies that we have here in town who do good work, but if they're giving something to do by the state law, they have to charge you for it because they have no budget to do it.
There is no state law.
There is, so if there's no...
Not for the health department, they arbitrarily just started doing it. That's the kind of fees and stuff that just
Okay.
show up. That's
So,
what we communicate.
If that is the case, then I would have to look why that is just put upon you. Okay.
Not just us, I'm talking as the industry as a whole,
Right.
it started happening.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Michael McDonald, VIPI Legislative Council, Restoring Freedom, Family Civil Liberties Union. I've got a question in regards to family and criminal law reform. One of the root causes of anxiety, depression, mental illness, criminal history, drug use, homelessness, teen sex trafficking, mass shootings is the destruction of our family. A lot of it's through our family courts separating children from good parents. If elected to the assembly, would you support legislation for equal parenting? As right now we have AB 263 set equal parenting set a presumption for joint parenting, but not a set standard. So so you're still guilty till proven innocent. You should be on equal footing when you go into a custody battle. Also, do you support criminal justice reform? We have 25% of the world's incarceration rate, yet we're the land of the free, and we have very little judicial oversight that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. All I can say to answer that is not an area of expertise of mine whatsoever, right? But I do work with researchers at the university who are working on that very issue about dual parenting and about children being taken away and the family structure and the court structures. So I can tell you that there are better experts than myself to answer this question. All I can say is I know who those folks are. If the issue comes before me, if I would be on that committee, which may not be, then I would certainly turn to them for their opinions on this. I hear what you're saying, except not my area of expertise.
Would you support legislation for that, for criminal family?
Absolutely. So I would read every piece of legislation that came beyond me and before me, and give it my all attention, because in my own family, I have that very situation. I know how stressful it is to the child as well as the parents, and even in a situation where the child is an adopted child originally, and now there's issues.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So I have a little switch on topics. So Second Amendment
Yes.
seems to be getting a bad rap these days, specifically from somebody running for governor. So my question to you is, what is your stance on the Second Amendment? And two, if a bill come across, or if it was talked about in the legislature and a bill got brought up about banning certain weapons and pushed by the governor's office, would you or would you not support it?
I'm going to be first in line to ban assault weapons, first in line to ban bump stocks, first in line to ban large magazines. I don't want to step on your Second Amendment rights, but the Second Amendment rights was written for you to own a musket. So, sorry, but in all honesty, you can you can own all the guns you want, right? But if you're going to want to own army type weapons, why that ever became allowed in the first place, I would never have agreed to it if I was old enough to vote on it. So you can have a gun, you can protect yourself, but I think that there needs to be limitations on it. That's my honest opinion.
Fair enough. Steve Sanson, Jr., U.S. Army. You're gonna try to take my guns.
I'm not taking your guns, I'm taking your assault weapons and large magazines.
Okay. My next question would be, what, if you were elected, would be the first thing that you would want to see change? What would you do first in office?
So my first thing really is to get, what is the point of any of this if we don't have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink? I don't know if you guys know, but we have about 5 years left of Lake Mead water. That's it. And that is by your top geologists and scientists that are talking about Southwest issues. So if we have no water to drink and no air to breathe, what's the point? So that's the first thing. So I'm going for more clean energy. I'm going for the 80% renewable energy portfolio. I think we can do it here. I'm also, if I had my dream bill, it would be to ban every blade of grass in this valley and anything that is invasive. So we don't have to cut lawns anymore. That'd be nice. So I think we can do better in that area. And so people want to come in here and blame the hotels and stuff for the water use. It is not the hotels. They only use 8% of our water. We use the others. That is us homeowners. We are the most wasteful. So I don't think we do a good enough job of getting that word out there. So that would be the first things that I would work on.
Let's start by banning all grass around government buildings.
Yes, that would be,
Yeah.
I would be all for that.
Leave my lawn alone, but. Yeah,
Nope, not leave your lawn alone. All of them have to go.
Yeah, earlier, you didn't really, I don't think you understood my question.
Sorry.
In regards to discipline. The problem is not that, I mean, there's problems with kids with disciplinary problems. There's also problems with policies within the districts. A victim of an assault on campus also gets suspended for fighting. You're not allowed to defend yourself. This is almost like the UK. So a child that is being beaten half to death by a bully, if they defend themselves in any way, also is suspended. And there is no appeal process beyond the principal who make these arbitrary decisions. That's why I was talking about a citizens review board for egregious violations of rights of the kids by the administration. Oftentimes they don't bring the police in, the police are not involved. You have school officials with no experience, not 1 minute of training and investigations making these decisions. So that's what my question is, would you support a review board?
So yes, I would support a review board, and I would support more fairness in that particular situation. And so again, what it takes is citizenry to want to do that job. So that'd be a very difficult job for the local citizen to do, or a mom and dad to do, right? So you have to have people to want to do that job. And again, you would want the citizenry panel to again have some expertise, otherwise you're again left without expertise for these children. So would they be retired lawyers or social workers? What kind of people would you like to see on that panel other than just somebody's mom and dad with no experience? So then you're back to square one.
But people on police review boards have no experience.
Well, that too should not be.
Yeah.
So I'm not, one does not make the other one better. So I would like to see a citizenry board, but with people with some experience to the issue.
Do you have further questions? Keeping in mind that these are question and answer and not debate.
Yes,
Okay.
that's okay.
Lena, Ocasio. I have a question regarding victims' rights here in the state of Nevada. As a victim of domestic violence myself, I've been negatively impacted by our local courts here, where it seems like the perpetrator's rights supersede the victim's rights. So my question is, since Marcy's Law is going to be on the ballot this year, do you support Marcy's Law, and why or why not?
And again, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to remind me what Marcy's Law was. I know.
It's basically, the prosecuting attorney has to notify the victim of any changes in status with the court hearings, if a case is opened, reopened, closed, where the perpetrator, if they're in jail, out of jail,
So being more proactive to the victim. I would absolutely be for that. And I have dealt with some of this on the UNLV campus in all the years that I've taught there. I would say I've had, let's say, half a dozen times where students hand me that paper and say, somebody's stalking me, or if this person shows up, I have to be given 500 feet, and those sort of things. So never's happened to me personally, can't take it personal, but I would say that I want better protections for the victim, absolutely.
Robert Foust, U.S. Army VIPI member. So where do you stand on immigration and the Dreamers? Should we throw them out?
No, because they're half my students. So there are many Dreamers who are in our education system at all ages. And so particularly in the college realm, I have always been of the idea that if you are a Dreamer in this country and you have succeeded in acquiring a high school education, your citizenry should come with that high school education. So that is an idea of mine. And so don't know if it'll go forward, but they need to be given citizenship
Should they have voting rights?
once they're a citizen.
Are there any further questions from the panel?
I just want to elaborate on that a second. The reason that idea came to me is because when my father fought in the Korean War, once he was done with his service, he was given his citizenry. So for his service. So you are better to tell me whether they still do that or not. But anyway, that's where the idea came from.
That's mercenaryism.
That's mercenaryism?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the United States used to do.
They stopped serving in the
They
military.
still do.
Thank you.
Yeah, not the same, well,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Lauckner. Kathleen Lauckner for State Assembly District 42 for being here in the panel. I'd like to also thank our panel members for being here this morning, and of course, more importantly, our sponsors, Ron Q for Clark County Treasurer, Michael Broadway, Real Estate, Real Water, and Lakeside Business Suites. I am Matt Miller, the moderator and candidate for Assembly District 5. I'd like to remind everyone that I am not a voting member here on the panel and have no bearing on the panel's endorsement of candidates. Thank you very much.
thank you for having me.